Hey guys, this is Coach Neal with BRX. These are the 5 most common mistakes we see with our high school athletes in the spring season. All right, guys, the first issue we see with athletes is nutrition. The first thing we tell people is they have to start every single morning with a quality breakfast. A lot of the athletes that we have say there's not enough time in the day or they sleep too much. So the biggest thing that we say is either get up earlier so you can prioritize enough time to have breakfast, or make your breakfast the night before, keep it in the refrigerator so it's easy to plug into a microwave and it's ready for you to go in the morning. The second thing that we're seeing with nutrition is athletes don't prioritize protein every single meal. So having 3 to 4 quality meals every single day is going to be really important just to make sure your body's able to recover from practices, from games, and from your lifting sessions. And the third thing that we see is athletes not eating enough. Again, 3 to 4 meals should be the expectation, starting with breakfast again, and making sure that we are emphasizing protein, carbohydrates, all the stuff that you kind of need for your body to function properly throughout the spring season. All right, guys, the second most common mistake we see with athletes in the in-season is dehydration or not drinking enough water. So with athletes, we always try to stress between 0.5 and 1 liters per pound of body weight with every single athlete. To make it simple, every athlete should be drinking around a half a gallon to a gallon of water every single day. It's a lot easier when you do have a water bottle with you. You can drink it during class. I know kids get really bored during class, so it's just easier when you have water there in front of you to make sure you're drinking water consistently each and every day. With the weather becoming now warmer, it's going to be also important not to just stay hydrated, but to also have an abundance of electrolytes. So having electrolytes in your water is going to be really important just to make sure you're not cramping up during games or practices. This is going to be not just Gatorade and Powerades, those sugary sports drinks, but actual electrolytes that you can mix in with your water. The third thing we see athletes struggle with is going to be a lack of sleep. So this is a pretty common thing that a lot of people hear, but athletes should be getting 8+ hours of sleep every single night to make sure they recover from games, practices, and also their lifting and training sessions as well. So a couple things that's going to help with sleep is going to be possibly reading a book before you go to bed, 30, 45 minutes before you go to bed. That's going to help your brain wind down and relax a little bit. Limiting screen time on your cell phone, TVs, computers, and video games, making sure you're not having an abundance of blue light right before you go to bed. That's just going to keep the brain working extra or keep it a little bit more wired than it should be. Athletes should also be trying to take a little bit of melatonin if they're struggling to go to bed early. Sometimes having melatonin 30 minutes before you go to bed is going to make it a lot easier for you to go to sleep at the right times and not falling asleep at 11 or 12 o'clock at night. Another useful technique to help with recovery is also going to be having a protein shake before you go to bed. It's a really simple way to get 30+ grams of protein in. Spend the 3 minutes it takes to make a shake and make sure your body's recovering and getting a significant amount of protein every single night. The fourth big issue we see with athletes in the in-season is not having a mental prep before the games and practices. So a lot of athletes just show up to the field, they warm up, and they get ready for the game. Unfortunately, this isn't going to be the best thing they can do in order to deal with the failures that come with baseball. Athletes are going to fail 7 out of 10 times for the most part. And how do athletes actually deal with that? Most of the time, it's not the correct way. So for athletes who do struggle with the failures that are just common in baseball, whether it's striking out, struggling to locate a fastball, all of these things are very common, but at the end of the day, there are helpful techniques that you can do before the game to make sure when things don't go your way, you're able to bounce back from them. One of these techniques is actually visualization. So visualizing yourself in a game before the game actually starts. So when you are having a strikeout or you do have an at-bat, it's not the first time that your brain is actually processing that. So when you do have an at-bat and things do go your way, you don't really have to think too much about that. But let's say you do get called strike 3 on the outside corner and it's not really a good pitch. A lot of people get frustrated with that. Unfortunately, most high school kids either carry that bad outcome to the field or they carry it through the rest of the game into their next at-bat. So being able to flush those negative experiences that you see before the game is going to be a lot easier to deal when you're out on the field So in the game of baseball or softball, a lot of things don't go your way, and everyone kind of knows this. They're games of failure. So when things, again, don't go your way, how do you react to them? Most high school kids do not act the right way, and it's just something that most people struggle with baseball and softball. So when things don't go your way, you have to kind of ask yourself, can you control what just happened? Whether it was a bad call, strike three, whether it was an error with your shortstop and your pitching, a lot of things just don't go your way. And you have to be able to bounce back from those failures, right? So one situation that we talk a lot about with our athletes is actually green light scenarios, yellow light, and red light. So what is a green light scenario? Green light scenario is when maybe you're a pitcher, you're cruising, all of your pitches are working, and you're not really struggling with location at all. A yellow light scenario is where you were in a green light scenario, but you walk a guy, there was an error, and maybe you hit a guy, so the bases are loaded and you're starting to get frustrated and the game's speeding up on you. It's important to understand what scenario you're in because it's easy to go from a green light to a yellow light, but it's even easier for you to go to a yellow light to a red light. So a red light scenario is when everything kind of happens at once and you're not really in control of your emotions, and then you find yourself you were in a game and now you're getting pulled because everything just happened, whether it was a bases clearing double, you walked four people in a row, or things just came out of control and you're just not able to reflect on that or to react to it in the right way. So being able to understand if you're in a green light, yellow light, or red light scenario is going to be important to make sure that you stay in the game as long as possible. Okay, guys, the fifth and final thing that we see with athletes that struggle with in the in-season is not following a structured in-season lifting program. So what is this, or what is the difference between an in-season program and an off-season program? Well, in the off-season, you're going to be focusing on a lot more volume, a lot higher intensities in the weight room, and ultimately, the main focus is not going to be competition, games, or practices. When you're in the in-season, there should be a difference between your off-season and your in-season. One of those differences is going to be a decrease in volume and the increase of intensity. So your intensity should be still pretty high, but volume or overall lifting should be a little bit lower. With athletes, you don't have to spend 4 or 5 days in a weight room in the in season. 2 to 3 days a week is going to suffice perfectly. But to make sure that you're following an individualized program that's going to work on mobility, that's going to focus on range of motion, and making sure you're not losing speed, strength, and power is going to be incredibly important. When athletes don't follow a structured lifting program, what typically happens is their strength goes down, their speed goes down, their power goes down. And ultimately, if you're a pitcher, you're going to see your overall fastball velocity starts to dip too. On top of that, the increased risk of injury is going to be much higher if you're not following a structured lifting program. So for athletes that aren't following that type of program, you're not going to see your numbers get better. You're not going to even have your numbers really get maintained. And ultimately, you're probably going to have an injury that pops up, which is going to get you out of the game. Another important thing to consider too is also that high school athletes, for the most part, need to continue to get stronger even though they're in the in season, whether it's the spring or the summer and their schedule is really busy. Most high school athletes are not at a point where they can just focus on baseball. They still have to prioritize their lifting, their nutrition, and all those things that are going to continue to get them to be a better baseball player. We have had tons of athletes who have actually increased their throwing, running, and exit velocity metrics when they stay consistent on a lifting program throughout the in season. So for athletes that are not happy with where they're at from a metric standpoint, this is a really important way for you to actually catch up with everyone else that you're competing against, not only at your age, but for people that you're competing against across the whole country. So lastly, guys, those are the 5 things that athletes really struggle with in season. Luckily, guys, all 5 of these things we can definitely help out with at BRX Performance. So if there is something that you are struggling with in season, whether it's nutrition, training, hydration, sleep, or mental prep, we can help those things out. Just come on in for an assessment. We can talk about what you're struggling with, and we can go from there.